You have lived in the Ulladulla district for most of your life. How old were you when your family moved here, and where did you live?
We came from Kangaroo Valley down here when I was 10-year-old, and we lived at Termeil for a while our house in Ulladulla was getting built.
Okay. Where did you go to school?
Out of Termeil, which was 8 kilometres from Termeil. Used to ride an old push bike out there.
Okay. Can you tell me what school life at Termeil was like?
A very hard old school. There wasn't many kids, there was only about 20 odd kids went, if they all turned up.
Did you like going to school?
No.
Why not?
Because they had a cranky old headmaster. He was a very cranky man, and nobody liked him.
What did the headmaster used to do?
He just put the work on the board, and then he'd go to the back of the room and watch you. Okay. And if you lifted your head up to do something, he'd give you a hit up the ear like that and tell you to keep your eye on your work. And if you'd done anything else wrong, you'd get 6 cuts, 3 on each hand.
Okay.
We're not doing much wrong, but he'd give me the cane anyway.
What sort of things did you do to deserve getting the cane?
Well, one day I was riding to school, and the old headmaster lived at Termeil, and he used to go to school in a Harrison's old bus. And one day I was ahead of him in the bus, and he seen me wandering over the old yellow line on the road, going up the hill towards Termeil School. And when I got to school, he gave me 6 cuts for going over the yellow line going to school. You didn't have to do much wrong. Yeah.
Your father had a trucking business cutting timber. How old were you when you started working for him?
I used to do part-time in between my school days and weekends. That used to help him load timber and unload bricks. So I started when I was very young.
What was it like?
Hard work. It was in the carting mine timber through to the coal mines in Wollongong.
Oh.
It was all fairly big timber, and everything had to be done by hand. Loaded all the timber was loaded by hand. No cranes around in those days.
Did you cut timber out of the forest around Termeil and Bawley Point?
Yeah, we got a lot of timber out of Termeil and Bawley Point and Kyola and down as far as East Lynn, and out as far as Broome and out the river. So we've done a lot.
How many mills were cutting timber in this area at the time?
There was about 5 sawmills around the Termeil area in those times, but before that there was a big sawmill at Bawley Point and Kyola, which was one of the biggest mills in the southern hemisphere at the time, but that was in the 30s mainly, and it shut down later on.
Okay. You have always been a timberman. How were the trees cut down during the 1940s? What did you use to cut them down?
Only we used axes or cross-cut saws, because chainsaws never came in until the 50s. Okay. So everything was done by hand.
Yep.
And it was hard work. Everything had to be cut. Sleepers had to be cut with an axe, a broad axe.
Yeah.
And squared with that.
Okay.
And there was a lot of timbermen around, all done something in the bush, cut logs, sleepers, or mine timber. It was a very hard years they were.
Okay. What was the timber used for?
Well, we carted timber through to the mines in Wollongong.
Yeah.
Coal mines up there, in the tunnels, what they call props, they were used on the sides, and then what they call bars run across the roof to hold the roof up.
Okay.
While the men cut the coal under in front of it. Yeah.
How did they get the logs to where your trucks could pick them up?
Well, in the early days, before the trucks started to cart them in, they took them in on with bullock teams and horse teams into the mills. And any long distance ones, they had little tram tracks. The trolleys, they load the logs on the trolleys and then pull them into the mill with the horses.
Okay. Did you ever have a mill at Termeil?
I had a sawmill in the 60s. It was built on the old Borden house out at Termeil.
Okay.
And I had it there for about 5 years, and then I made it a mobile one. I used to take it to the bush instead of the logs to the mill. And I could snig them straight in. And I used to snig the logs with an old Chev Blitz in those days, and then later on I bought a skidder to snig the logs in.
When were chainsaws when were chainsaws introduced to use to cut down timber?
In the 50s, chainsaws first came in. Everything else before that was done with a crosscut saw or axes.
Did this make your life a lot easier?
I did, yeah, a lot easier. And you could fall a tree in a couple of minutes with a chainsaw, but taking hours to do it with an axe and or crosscut saw. That's big logs, that is.
How big and important was the timber industry in this area in the 1940s?
It was one of the biggest industries in the whole south coast years ago. It employed probably hundreds of men up and down the coast, because each mill always had anything up to 20 odd men working in it. And the bush cut, the blokes cutting logs, as well as the people bringing them in on the with horses or bullocks. They employed a lot of people. And most of the timber at Borley Point and Kyola went on the old steamships that used to come in and pick the timber up. They'd load it on and take it to Sydney, because there wasn't many trucks to take timber on the road in those days. It was all taken by water. And the old wharves are still out there where they done it.
Okay.
Well, because it was mostly building timber that went away, building houses and everything. They had some of the best hardwood timber probably in Australia, here on the south coast. Very good timber.
What was the biggest tree you ever cut down with an axe, and what was the biggest tree you ever cut down with a chainsaw?
The biggest tree I ever felled with an axe would have been probably 3 foot through, across at the stump, and the biggest one I ever cut with a chainsaw would be about 7 foot across. And they were very big logs in those days. It took, I forget how long it was, about half an hour to fall a real big fellow with a chainsaw. But, I wouldn't have liked to cut the big one down with an axe.
What was the main difference between how you worked the bush back then and how it is worked now?
Well, in those days they're more of select cut timber, because there was no wood chipping or anything in those days. It was just mainly all cutting timber. So you only cut the best trees that suited the market for the timber that you was cutting, the building timber. So there was no waste. Like today's sawmills, if they get any waste, they put them into wood chips. They go down to Eden to make paper out of them.
Yep.
But in the bush today, is a lot of it was taken off of the forestry for national parks, and that made the forestry a bit smaller. But the forestry used to look after the bush a lot better than what the national parks do, because they don't do as much hazard reduction burning as they used to do when it was forestry.
What is the timber industry in this area like now?
Very small, not as big as it used to be. There's only probably only about 3 or 4 mills left in the whole district.
And was the bush looked after better then?
Years ago it was looked after a lot better than what it is now, because it was only more or less select cut in those days, where today they just cut everything because of the wood chips. Pulp. Yeah, the bush was really looked after back in those days. It was just select cut, and you didn't cut any of the real small trees, and you looked after it all, and the smaller trees grew up pretty quick when the bush was thinned out a little bit. But today it's a different thing altogether. The forestry would only allow you to cut certain trees. You wasn't allowed to cut just anything. They'd come in and mark the trees, the ones they'd allow you to take, which was called select cut. And today they just go in, and because there's not as much forestry around now as what there used to be, they just go in on these compartments and more or less take everything. And then they move to another area. But the bush is knocked around more today with big machinery than what it was in the days of the old bullockys, and when they're getting the timber out, they didn't knock the bush around at all.
Okay. What are some of your memories of life around Termeil in the 1940s and 50s?
Mostly all the people around the Termeil area mainly were timber people. There wasn't any other industries out of Termeil. It was just timber and a bit of fishing out on Bawley Point and Kyola, but 90% of it was fishing. It was timber, not fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hard game and employed a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your memories of what life was like in Termeil when you were young. Thank you.
Yeah, they were good days, hard days, but you had to work hard and never got much money for it either. Most you'd ever get back in those days was about 2 and 6pence to go to the picture show if you rode your bike in. That's all the money you got. You didn't get wages or anything. It was pretty hard.